The time has come for a Halloween reboot. Didn't we just go through this with this David Gordon Green trilogy? This is ridiculously funny that the writer of this article from thebiglead.com, Stephen Douglas, this came out about 6 days ago, but I wanted to talk about it a little bit, go through a few paragraphs of it, and talk about it before we get into the main article, because we have two to cover here today. And it is Halloween season. We are watching horror movies. We're going to do another watch tomorrow. I'm going to announce the movie we're watching on Twitter tomorrow or tonight. I think I'll do that. So I'm picking it. No poll this time. But here we go. So the time has come for a Halloween reboot. Stephen Douglas is writing about this. And this guy's more of a sports writer, but says he writes about movies and television. It says, you know what we haven't had in a long time? A new Halloween movie. It's been days since there was a movie released about the infamous movie character Michael Myers and his favorite holiday. Why there are children who were born this week who aren't old enough to remember seeing ads for the latest chapter in the Halloween franchise. Considering we're 6 years away from the 50th anniversary of Deborah Hill and John Carpenter's original Halloween, the timing couldn't be better. If we start production today, we might be able to wrap up 2 movies for the sake of synergy, a full trilogy in time for the golden anniversary. We just had a new trilogy, and it was, by all accounts, and my opinion as well, basically the same as the new Star Wars trilogy. Hear me out. Halloween 2018 was a continuation to the original. All right. But if you look at Force Awakens, Last Jedi, Rise of Skywalker, Force Awakens was fairly well received upon release. There were people that knew right from the very start it was a carbon copy, a cheap imitation, a knockoff, if you will, of the original Star Wars. Now, everybody that was of that opinion went into Last Jedi and saw that and were like, oh my God, what the hell happened? And Halloween Kills, much the same way. After Halloween 2018, Michael Myers in Halloween Kills just became, he was no longer lurking. He was just out in the open, just murdering anybody and everybody. Now, Myers is always killed, but somewhat indiscriminately and targeted. Halloween Kills was just a rampage. And then by the time you get to Halloween Ends, you have this completely different story focused on this Corey Cunningham character, and it's a commentary on how society creates killers by pushing these people to the edge, like they did with Corey, who was found innocent in the death of the kid he was babysitting, Jeremy, I believe the little shit's name was, because of the circumstances around the death. He didn't intentionally kill that kid. Now, Corey was socially awkward, and this obviously, being a bit seemed introverted, and the way he was treated by everybody in the town, kind of pushed him to the edge. Now, that doesn't explain how he was weak enough to be beat up by band kids in high school when he's like 23 at the time of the mainline part of the movie, as opposed to being able to take down Michael Myers and physically beat him and take his mask. That really made no sense whatsoever. Neither did him being able to restrain the doctor and, stab him to death in that scene by the pool where Michael kills the nurse after Corey kills the doctor. It didn't make any sense. It literally made no sense. So for Stephen Douglas to say we need a reboot, I just let it die. Don't make any more movies. Don't. Just stop. And this is the same thing I said after The Last Nightmare on Elm Street. Just don't. Don't make any more of these. Don't make a sequel. Don't reboot it and be like, oh, well, we should have done that. No, don't. Just leave it alone. These horror franchises are not going to be ever as good as they were because the people making them now don't understand why they were good in the first place. They want to put all this, we'll talk about the social commentary more, but that's basically what they want to do. is put all that into these movies. And just to kind of go through a little bit more of this article, let's see. Oh, he says, did I mention one of the reboots was actually a direct sequel to the original? Yes, 2018's Halloween was a sequel to 1978's Halloween. Then the sequel to Halloween had two sequels. Those were, of course, Halloween Kills and Halloween Ends, two movies that were not great. So not only has it been days since there was a new Halloween movie, but the bar is extremely low. If you sat through Halloween Ends by now, you're probably hoping someone gets the rights to this franchise that can do it justice. This is a proud franchise that should probably just die. That is one opinion that we do share.
Evil dies tonight!
On to this second story here. We're going over to Screenrant. This came out a couple days ago. Does everyone owe Halloween Kills an apology now? And the answer to that question is a resounding, you know what? I'm going to let Cleveland answer that.
Now, why on earth would we apologize to Halloween Kills for being such a garbage movie? You've got Danny McBride and David Gordon Green, Laurie Strode and all the other usual suspects making a shit Halloween movie with the only takeaway was Tommy Doyle yelling evil dies tonight. Fuck that movie and fuck anybody who thinks that we need to apologize to that piece of shit.
Halloween Kills was poorly received by fans, but following the release of Halloween Ends, some of its worst parts may actually have been its best.
Liar!
I'm going to go ahead and call bullshit on that one. That is utterly ridiculous, and this Halloween Kills was absolutely terrible. It was terrible at every level.
Evil dies tonight!
To the rationalization of all the decisions made by these stupid characters that were not even fun to watch get killed. They were just ridiculously stupid decisions made by stupid characters that were written by idiots. That sums up the entire production, the main team of, David Gordon Green, Danny McBride, and whatever the other weirdo's name that wrote Kills was. But let's get into this one. The recent release of Halloween Ends has sparked a discussion about whether Halloween Kills was as bad as audiences initially thought. Currently, both Kills and Ends have 39% critic scores on Rotten Tomatoes, unlike 2018's Halloween, which has a significant advantage with a 79%. It is clear that Kills and Ends have their fair share of problems, but that doesn't necessarily mean one is better than the other. They're both equally terrible, but I would say of the two, the least offensive out of the pair would be Halloween Ends, just because it was so dumb. Halloween Kills tried to be a Halloween movie to no avail. Following the release of 2018's Halloween, audiences were divided about whether Michael Myers should return to the big screen. While the possibility of seeing Michael again was exciting, Halloween did such a great job of providing a conclusive end to Michael and Laurie, and the idea of him returning proved worrisome. 3 years later, Halloween Kills was released, and it quickly became known as one of the worst films within the Halloween franchise compared to the original 78 and even 2018's Halloween. Halloween Kills significantly separated itself from the franchise by trying to incorporate heavy societal themes into a fairly straightforward slasher format. At the time, no other Halloween film had divided the fan base as much as Kills. That is, until the release of Halloween Ends, which has proven to be the most controversial of the franchise. Yeah. Halloween Kills, you had all this mob mentality commentary, and it was just stupid. I remember watching it for the first time and just sitting back and just wondering why they thought it was, I guess, I don't want to say appropriate, but that it would work, that it would be functional to try to do that in a slasher movie that is, a beloved franchise. As bad as the original mainline continuity might have gotten towards, part 6 and, Resurrection, Halloween H2O is fun. Halloween Resurrection is fun. The Curse of Michael Myers, you could take or leave that one. I don't watch that as much as I do the others, but I enjoy all the other ones. I'm talking even Halloween 5 with the annoying stupidity of Tina and most of the other cast in that one as well. The two police officers having, comedic music as they walk and show up places and do things. All that aside, it was still much better than Halloween Kills. I mean, look at the Thorn trilogy, which is 4, 5, and 6. If you put those three kind of in a bottle, not bad, honestly. Not bad, comparatively speaking, I would take those over the David Gordon Green trilogy any day. Part 4 is my favorite entry into the entire franchise. I'm not even going to lie. It is. And then if you take, like, what is it, Resurrection, H2O Resurrection, and I'm trying to think, because you can kind of split them up. Those two form, like, their own little thing. But, no, Part 1 and 2 are phenomenal, the originals. They weren't even going to make 2, but they did. That's where they incorporated Laurie being Michael's sister. 3, Season of the Witch, fucking amazing standalone story. Really great. That's when they were trying to do the anthology part with it. So I think Halloween Kills, trying to preach that social message of how dangerous the mob mentality was, while it's a good message, because I mean, mob mentality is why we see cancel culture so prevalent. People literally, you cannot be canceled unless you allow yourself to be, unless you play your specific role in the whole cancel culture process. Like, most people will, so something gets drug up that they said years and years ago. People on the left, which are the ones doing this, try to shame them for it, drum up the Twitter mob to where there's outrage and people are calling for this, calling for that, for them to be fired, not eat, not work, basically die. That's basically what they want, you to fold up and die. And then the person that's being canceled will usually make a stupid apology and then just remove themselves and fade into obscurity. You can't be canceled unless you allow yourself to be canceled. That's the caveat to the entire thing. So this whole mob mentality, cancel culture thing, yeah, it's stupid, but it really doesn't have any place in this. I mean, save that shit for your preachy garbage tier art house movies that you try to do, with these people that are so smug they huff their own farts. That's basically what that kind of messaging, who that speaks to, are those asshats. Halloween Kills was criticized heavily for a multitude of reasons. However, the primary reason for Kills' backlash is that it was completely different from 1978's Halloween, while existing in a planned trilogy that was supposed to be directly linked to it, where Michael Myers was reminiscent of a phantom killer in 78's Halloween, lurking within the shadows and stalking his prey. He instead becomes a raging killing machine, brutally murdering anyone who crosses his path. This was an issue that already became prominent in 2018's Halloween, and yet Kills managed to make it significantly worse by taking it a step further and making him literally unbeatable. The reboot trilogy was supposed to retcon Myers as an immortal, unstoppable killer. Yet Kills saw Michael brutally cut his way through an entire mob facing injuries no mortal man could survive. Yeah, like coming out of the fire and murdering all those firefighters who didn't even attempt to fight back even though they had melee weapons, which they waited for him to kill them one at a time, because that was brilliant writing. Anybody that praises that movie or that scene is a fucking idiot. I'm sorry. You're a smooth brain. It's the same thing with the Rob Zombie Halloween movies. Those are objectively both trash. I could give you the first one is okay for an origin story, but the second one, the white horse, Michael, come home. Oh my God. It's just mind-numbingly stupid. Aside from the copious amounts of gore within Kills, the film also attempts to act as a social commentary, critiquing the ways in which communities react to killers. For example, Kills shows 78 survivor Tommy Doyle becomes somewhat of a vigilante who recruits a number of Haddonfield residents in order to take down Michael Myers rather than live in fear of him. The mob grows so large and angry that eventually they end up chasing down and killing the wrong man. This was a huge subversion away from anything the Halloween movies had done before, and while it was an interesting concept, Kills' cautionary tale of revenge ultimately fell flat among the chaos. You saw in Halloween 2 where the crowd had showed up at the Myers house and were throwing rocks at it, and it was kind of a precursor to Evil Dies Tonight, but they didn't dive into it and say, well, this is, there was no underlying tones of societal commentary there. It was just, hey, these people are pissed off about these murders and this killer, and they're going to the abandoned house, and that kind of thing. The whole Evil Dies Tonight thing was absolutely hilarious.
Evil dies tonight!
They have Myers like dead to rights, and then of course he murders all of them. Kills Tommy Doyle, kills Brackett, kills the lady with, I think, who had an iron. I think she was. She should have brought sandwiches instead of an iron. I'm sticking to that.
You get your bitch ass back in the kitchen and make me some pie.
Following the backlash from Halloween Kills, it appears as though Halloween Ends attempted to retcon a lot of what they established in the former. This is primarily the reason for Halloween Ends' downfall, where Kills showed Michael Myers as an immortal force to be reckoned with. Ends went back to the idea of simply him being a regular man. Instead, it is the fear plaguing Haddonfield that is immortal, with Ends spending the majority of its narrative with a new character, Corey Cunningham, and how this fear has affected his life as he becomes labeled as Haddonfield's new boogeyman.
I'm the boogeyman, and I'm coming to get you!
And we talked about that earlier with Corey and the circumstances around the kid he was babysitting's death and how everybody just thought he was weird. He was socially awkward, but I'm sure a lot of that was due to him being shunned.
It's like slapping someone with silence.
Again, with Halloween Kills, you went so far off the rails, a la The Last Jedi, that Ends was dead to rights, doomed right from the word go.
You're doomed to stay.
Simply because it had to retcon so much of what Kills did. It didn't even get Ends a chance to get established in this, as its own movie. And then they decide, instead of taking it back to Michael being a lurking stalker, Phantom-esque figure, no, they go back to, hey, we're going to make this story about somebody else. And then there was no continuity between these movies whatsoever. Name only. She went from being on guard 24/7 to trying to live a normal life and being oblivious to the things around her. The same with Allison, who lost both of her parents to this, and now she's dating a killer and doesn't even have any suspicions about him. I mean, none of the writing makes sense.
Nothing.
Unlike Halloween Kills, Halloween Ends removes much of the gore in exchange for a more grounded approach to its story. Similarly to Kills, Ends attempts to explore the effects of Michael Myers on Haddonfield even further. However, Ends is a bit more contained, using Corey Cunningham to illustrate that society can be responsible for creating killers such as Michael Myers, exploring Corey's psychological corruption as he becomes the psychopath that Haddonfield accused him of being. For this to work, it meant that Michael Myers was barely in the film, and when he was acting even more out of character than in the two previous installments, now a weak man barely able to hold his ground. Ultimately, this led to Michael's final fight with Laurie and eventual demise being incredibly rushed, made a majority of Halloween Kills feel pointless. Well, the movie was already pointless. The whole trilogy was pointless. They didn't need to do it. It could be argued that if audiences had known about the outcome of Ends, that Kills would have been far more appreciated at the time. One piece of shit being worse than the other doesn't make the other piece of shit better. They're both pieces of shit. One just smells a little bit worse than the other. It doesn't make the other one good. You see what I'm saying? This whole thing, this is better by comparison. It's not. It's still garbage. If anything, Ends actually proves audiences wrong about the majority of their criticism regarding Kills. For example, while many viewers found it ridiculous that Myers survived the injuries he sustained in Kills, Ends proves that a Michael killing machine is far more entertaining than an old injured one. Furthermore, Ends also proved that deep down, audiences do love the gore that comes with a Halloween movie. While some felt the violence in Kills was out of place, Ends would have been far better received had it also included some gore with its overarching theme. There was seriously no gore in Ends. I mean, you had a couple sequences, but overall, I don't watch Halloween for the gore. I watch for the stealth-like abilities of Michael Myers, how he's always in the right place at the right time. That's what I liked about it. I was never outwardly in it for the gore. Yes, I do like a good, kill sequence, but honestly, I think the more restrained kills are a little more startling than the outward gory ones. Because, okay, so for example, in the original Halloween, when he kills Annie Brackett in the back of the car, she's completely off guard, getting into the car, goes to start it and then notices the fog on the inside of the windshield. And, all the sound effect kicks in and he's strangling her, and all you hear is his breathing, her struggling. It's done well. That's how I like these. Now, Friday the 13th is my favorite horror series. That I expect a little more gore out of that than I do out of this. A little more. Not completely over the top, but this is, like I said, Myers is more stealth. Jason has a stealth aspect to him, absolutely, but has the penchant for more hardcore kills than Michael does, unless you're Rob Zombie and you're in the white trash cinematic universe. This doesn't mean Kills is suddenly a good film. While there are other things about Kills that made it better than Ends, such as likable victims, no. Some humor, no. It still has many faults and can be hard to overlook. Additionally, it also wastes a lot of Laurie and Michael potential as Ends did, and brought back a lot of legacy characters and didn't really do anything with them. Therefore, while Kills is subjectively better than Ends, neither of them managed to match up to the standards of 78's or even 2018's Halloween.
Are you fucking high?
Within the debates about Kills and Ends, there's some common ground, which is 2018's Halloween should have been a standalone movie that concluded the story of Laurie Strode and Michael Myers.
Come on.
If their story had ended with Michael burning to death in Laurie's basement, it would have been far more satisfying than the disappointing conclusion of Ends. In fact, even Ends could have worked better as a standalone film, especially if it had taken place after Michael's death, which is more than can be said about Kills, which was not given enough justice, or a conclusion in Ends. Ultimately, the Halloween reboot trilogy would have worked better if Ends had directly followed Kills, taking place in the same night as originally planned, with a brutal final showdown between Laurie and Michael.
Yada, yada, yada.
So to me, I look at this article, these two articles, and this entire sequel trilogy of Halloween, you know, the David Gordon Green verse, which follows the original 1978 movie, wipes out the other movies, all of them. The only thing that's positive that can be derived from that is the fact that Rob Zombies are gone. But you miss out on a lot of good Halloween along the way and substitute it for garbage with the David Gordon Green verse. And this trilogy in particular, 2018, Kills and Ends. Kills, there are three different movies. The continuity is muddled. The motivations are just, they're non-existent from movie to movie. There's no correlation, it seems. And this just didn't need to be made. It didn't need to be made. We don't need modern sensibilities in our 1980s slashers. And as I said, I'm working on something that goes back to where it's supposed to be and keeps it there and doesn't try to bring it into this modern time and inject garbage into it. Now, the societal commentary we got in Kills, to a lesser extent, was there in Ends, but not as, I can't say not as overt, because that's basically what they were saying. That was the commentary about Corey's character, was that society can create killers, turn people into killers, that the people that they can turn people into what society thinks they are. And if they push them enough, and that's what happened with Corey. And the whole evil dies tonight and Halloween ends was a commentary on the mob mentality and all that nonsense. I just think they were completely out of character, out of place, and the writing was bad. The writing was absolutely horrible. The characters were, for the most part, completely unlikable, and that was it. Some decent kill sequences, yes, but they didn't make sense. So that's it. I find this article to be ridiculous, thinking that Halloween Kills is somehow better. It's addition by subtraction, I think. Is what they're trying to do, the mental gymnastics that this writer is trying to use to justify this word salad of an article that literally amounts to nothing, because Halloween Kills is the last Jedi of the Halloween franchise. Halloween Ends, obviously, the Rise of Skywalker, that is just a cobbled together nightmare of a movie that nobody knew what it was supposed to be. It didn't know what it wanted to be. There it is, folks. Now it's your turn. Leave your thoughts in the comments below. What do you think of the sequel Halloween trilogy? Were you a fan? If not, why? Have you seen my reviews of it? If not, you should, because they're all done as Cleveland Brown, and I enjoyed making them. As bad as it was watching these movies multiple times to film reviews and write dialogue and things like that and craft jokes, it was worth it because I think some people enjoyed it. So ding the bell, subscribe if I've earned it, smash the like button, share the video, not just for me, but for your other favorite YouTubers. And that's it, gang. Big shout out to my editor, Goodstuff Comixgater, everybody else at the channel. I'm Etepel Queen of The Place to Be Reviews. We've been here with all of you. If we don't see you, have a great day, a pleasant tomorrow. Catch you on the next one.
It's better to burn out than to fade away.
I could do this all day.